Just a week before the postseason, the Denver Nuggets decided to pull off something that none of us anticipated, which was firing Mike Malone, the head coach, along with Calvin Booth, the GM. And Mike Malone, he was fired because it's been reported that he and Calvin Booth, the general manager of the Denver Nuggets, they weren't eye to eye. There's also been reports, particularly one from the Athletic, that players had issues with Russell, not only Jokic and Murray receiving preferential treatment, but also Russell Westbrook. Now, to me, with the preferential treatment part, I don't have a problem with Jokic and Murray receiving it because of what they are, what they mean to the organization, what they were able to deliver the franchise. Um, we've seen it before with coaches being fired, champ, who just fresh off from championships. Mike Budenholzer with the Milwaukee Bucks. Nick Nurse was fired and ended up going to the Philadelphia 76ers. We've seen a pattern of this before, champ. I think what's shocking is the timing. We're this late into the season. We're just a week away from the postseason tournament, along with the NBA playoffs. And now you made the decision to fire them. And look, ownership, they feel like, and the statement from the owner, I'll pull it up in just a second. He feels like, you know what, it was just time to move on. And basically, this is the best chance for us to win a championship. Really, at this point in the season, when we're fifth in the Western Conference, the team is not as what they were defensively, champ. They're not. Defensively, last year, they were seventh in opposing points per game. They're 23rd. And you lost some key pieces, particularly Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Mike Malone, he leads with a 471, 321 record, which is a 59 winning percentage. And he was able to help deliver the Denver Nuggets their first franchise in history. So I wish they should have fired him after the season. That would have been a more professional thing. Has it happened before with coaches being fired? And what we've seen from the NBA champ, I mean, look, last year, even though he didn't win a championship, Adrian Griffin, he got fired during the season, and Milwaukee had a good enough record. And then he gets replaced by Doc Rivers. And Doc Rivers, I've said it before, he's got more opportunities as a head coach than the Kardashians have as far as dating men. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. I mean, no one has blown more 3-1 leads in the NBA playoffs than him. He's blown 3-2 leads before. He hasn't been to the conference finals since the lockout season back in 2011. Michael Malone, I believe he'll be back in the NBA as a head coach because you can't disregard the resume. He came back from not one, 2-3-1 deficits. Remember in the bubble, the first round against the Utah Jazz, and then the second round against the Los Angeles Clippers. Jokic even admitted he knew that something was going to happen. So he wasn't shocked or dumbfounded like the rest of us who are looking from the outside. So he knew what was going to happen. So I am, again, it's this late into the season and you made the decision to fire him. And the GM, Mike Malone, Chris Broussard, he mentioned it on First Things First. He's old school. He will coach the players hard. And I think the players had a problem with it, with how the way he was treating them compared to Jokic and Murray. Sure, he's going to coach them, but he's not going to coach them as hard because of their status. So I do think there's a culmination of things, champ. They're not what they were defensively. They're not the team they were a couple of years ago. The writing, it's pretty obvious between Booth and Malone as far as how the way they were during the workplace. What are your thoughts?
You know what? I'm gonna just say this, and I hate to be the old man, get off my lawn, but let me look into the camera. Understand something, young men. Young men. Your cash cows are going to get preferential treatment. If you don't believe that, look at The Last Dance. Look at The Last Dance. It's evident on how certain players get special treatment. Remember, they sent, when Jordan caught that pneumonia cold or whatever it was, they sent the trainer and the medical staff to his home. Steve Kerr had to pick up his medicine. If you don't need any more evidence of how players, special players, certain players get preferential treatment, look no further than Phil Jackson giving Dennis Rodman not just the leeway to go on a 48-hour vacation where he hung out with Carmen Electra, by the way.
In Vegas,
drinking kamikazes all night long. Not only that, he was able to go on Monday Nitro with Hulk Hogan in the NWO. So your star players, I don't understand this. Look, everybody's not going to get treated the same. And you have to understand that. John Elway, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, Chip. It's history before. Let's not forget, you didn't have to bring up The Last Dance, Chip. We've seen players who haven't won a championship receiving preferential treatment. Remember James Harden? Remember that ESPN article by Tim McMahon? Whatever James wanted? And remember how James Harden tried to get himself out of Houston? Remember how he was looking? He looked like the skinnier version of you, coming fresh off the Hardee's, a Waffle House.
Yeah, coming fresh. He had about 3 of them all-star breakfasts, bro. He got the smother covered in top hash browns. It's going to be real. But your star players are going to get preferential treatment, man. I don't know what it is about these young players. He's getting special treatment. Of course, he's the best player in the darn league. What do you expect? Like I said, Dennis Rodman was able to go on a 48-hour vacation. Now, this is from the greatest play. This is the greatest coach, arguably, of all time. Phil Jackson was smart enough to let Dennis Rodman go on a 48-hour vacation and miss practice later on down the line in order to hang out with Hulk Hogan on Monday Nitro. And he's one of the greatest coaching minds of all time. And that in the Chicago Bulls, one of the greatest teams of all time. If you really look back at it, even in Phil Jackson's own words, he said, my biggest regret in the first time around is that I didn't give Kobe the same treatment that I gave Shaq, because both of them was responsible for it.
Yeah.
So Shaq got preferential treatment. Remember, he told Shaq, hey, man, look, you've already a champion. Oh, don't worry about training your heart out over the summer, man. Come back in September. We'll work it out from there. And work yourself in shape over the... He told him that. So your star players are going to get preferential treatment. And when he was out, you know what he went and told Kobe? He told Kobe when Shaq was not in shape, he said, turn it up. And Kobe was going out there just launching it, go 40-point games. And then, you know, hey, man, the big fella working his way back into shape, man. Time to dial it back. So your star player, even the greatest coach of all time, arguably, I would say, was smart enough to get his players preferential treatment. Hell, even going back to Jimmy Johnson's days. You remember when he cut that player when he caught him sleeping, had all the stuff all around?
Yeah, I know. I know that. I know that one.
Yeah. And remember what the reporter asked him? He said, what if you would have caught Troy Aikman sleeping? He said, simple. I would have went back, tapped Troy on the shoulder and said, wake up. And then went right back to my seat. Every coach understands that his star players are going to get preferential treatment. So why these young guys don't understand that, I don't know. It seems like coaching has become a civic joke in the NBA. Whereas we cannot wait for the next offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator in the NFL to show his stuff. Like, we can't wait to see Ben Johnson in that offense this year. We can't wait to see Aaron Glenn in that defense this year in the Jets. We can't wait to see what that offensive coordinator who went to Jacksonville is going to do this year with Trevor Lawrence, because of how great of a job he did with Baker Mayfield. We can't wait to see that. In the NBA, it's just like, how do you fire a championship coach? Them doing this, the Denver Nuggets, them doing this is sort of equivalent to when Marty Schottenheimer went 14-2 and they fired him the very next year because he couldn't get along with the general manager. Our job ain't to get along with each other. Our job is to win these basketball games. Hell, Jerry Krause was smart enough to understand that. Hey, Phil Jackson, the man, I got to put my differences aside because this man is leading us to championships. So coaching has become a civic joke in the NBA. As far as player empowerment is concerned, I understand that, but understand this. When your star player gets preferential treatment, you can't get ticked off at that. It's kind of like us getting a contract and they say, hey, PSP, we're going to give you 3 Versace rolls, but we're going to give you some cola, champ. Okay, cool. That's fine with me. At least I'm on the show. Like, that's what happens.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. Don't blame us for accomplishing what we do. I mean, heck, after all, people are going to get jealous. I mean, the thing is, champ, with players getting preferential treatment, that's just what it is. Yes. We've seen players who haven't won championships. I mentioned James Harden, who had preferential treatment. We've seen so many athletes get preferential treatment. As Shannon Sharpe has often said, when production is high, so is tolerance. But when the moment they can replace you, they'll find someone else to replace you, then they'll move on, and then you'll be gone. Jokic, of course, was going to get preferential treatment. What the hell anyone thought? This is a 3-time MVP, soon to be probably a 4-time MVP.
Yes.
Jamal Murray, when healthy, is a great number 2 option. We've seen him perform in the playoffs before. Big-time shot creator, big-time guy for a guy who can hit clutch shots in postseason. Heck, you're a Lakers chef. Don't want to dwell on the past. Don't want to put you through pain, but that's just the truth.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with Russell Westbrook. Okay, Russell Westbrook was going to get special treatment because obviously he's going to the Hall of Fame. And of course, because of his personality. Here's the article from The Athletic. Players on the Nuggets began to lose faith in Michael Malone after he gave Russell Westbrook special treatment. Quote, all the while Malone's choice to continue supporting Westbrook, despite the frustration he was causing on and off the floor, ultimately led to a loss of credibility among the players. It was one thing when Malone handled Jokic and Murray with more leniency than the rest of the group, but affording Westbrook that sort of treatment, even with his Hall of Fame resume, wasn't received well by some. You hear that, champ? What goes through your mind?
Russell Westbrook is on his way to the Hall of Fame. And the thing is, you have to understand something. There's people in this world you don't have to say a word to. I don't care if it's an exhibition game in April or garbage time in game 1 at the beginning of the season. Russell Westbrook is going to play hard. So you don't have to tell Westbrook what to do. You don't. So that's how come you get preferential treatment. If you know somebody, it's kind of like at work. When the boss knows this guy's going to show up and work hard and handle a million cases and pretty much run everything without having a title himself, of course he's going to get preferential treatment. And plus, Russell Westbrook is a Hall of Famer. And in a clutch situation, he's going to put himself and the team in the best situation possible in order to win. He's going to try his hardest to win.
Sometimes good, but sometimes bad, though.
I was about to just say that for better or for worse, but he's going to play his heart out.
Right.
So I don't understand all of this crybaby stuff.
Shout out to Ron.
Going on, Ron. I don't understand all this crybaby stuff. If a player gets preferential treatment, so what?
Okay, but here's the thing. I get that point, champ, but here's the thing. In fairness to the players, to play devil's advocate, they can look at it and say, Russ, you're new here to the organization. Yes, we know you're a Hall of Famer. Yes, you're a top 75 player of all time. You've won a league MVP. But at the same time, you just got here to this organization. And again, I read the report. They had issues with him on and off the floor. So it's also about establishing a culture and cohesion. Champ, do you remember the article from The Athletic about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard? Remember how Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, how they picked and choose when they wanted to play, when they wanted to practice, how Kawhi Leonard was living in San Diego and how the team had to wait for him?
Yeah, I remember that.
So, so I kind of understand it from the player standpoint because wait a minute, we've been here, we've established a culture, and you coming in here and you're causing frustrations for the team. How has that helped the team? How is that conducive for all of us? So, if the players have a frustration in that regard, I'm sure, Champ, you could at least understand it. But at the same time, that's the part of the game. Athletes with resumes and who can still produce, we expect them to get that type of preferential treatment.
Yeah, and when you have a new player on your team coming into your team, it's going to cause frustration. It is because you're not used to this guy. You're not used to how he plays or what have you. I give you a prime example of a player getting good treatment, and it was frustrating to the players at first, but once they got into the groove of everything, they was able to get everything right and win a championship. Remember when Clyde Drexler got traded to the Houston Rockets?
Yep.
When they were trying to repeat?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't particularly like him, especially Robert Horry. Robert Horry stated himself, I used to curse them out every chance I got. They traded my friend Otis Stewart. This guy coming here, kicks his feet up, reads the Wall Street Journal, gets certain treatments because he's from the city of Houston. You wasn't here last year. We beat you last year when you played for the Trailblazers. In fact, you went to the finals twice and still lost.
Right.
But the thing is, when you're trying to win, then guess what? You make adjustments. The Houston Rockets made that adjustment, and guess what? They was able to win the championship with them. The thing is, when somebody new comes in, do they really need to adjust their attitude when they come in, or do you really need to adjust your attitude as they come in?
I think it's both, Champ, because at the same time, look, you brought him in. You want to see at the same time, you want to work. You want to see at the same, I mean, when you have someone coming into your home or organization, okay, regardless of the problems that you have, fine, we'll make sacrifices for you, we'll make accommodations for you. With that being said, that the individual who is coming there can't be let off the hook, Champ, because at the same time, we're making sacrifices for you. We're doing our part to help you, but you're not doing your part as well. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. I can't argue with that. But at the same time, you have to get where, like I said, a lot of times when somebody new comes in, it's the same thing with a job. They may not work the same as you did last year, or in this case, this year. It may not work the same. So you have to adjust your attitude. Everybody has that hard-nosed guy who comes into the job and he's a little bit of an overachiever, I would say. And the thing is, everybody knows that, but they're just their mindset. Just like, okay, this guy's a little bit of overachiever. We're not going to get onto his case like we would, let's say, Michael or whatever. We're not going to get into his case like that. We know he's an overachiever. But at the same time, like you said, we're going to hold him accountable. But at the same time, we're not going to get on to him as much as the guys who are used to this culture. We're not going to do that. Like I said, a lot of time when someone new comes in, you have to adjust your attitude more so than they have to adjust theirs. Because guess what? You're getting used to them into your culture. You have to give them time to integrate themselves within the culture of your team, how you do things, how you work out. And even if they do receive preferential treatment, then that is what that is. Like I said, I'm from the old school. Coaches ain't going to treat everybody the same. It's just not going to happen. It's not. Coach didn't look, when I was starting, Coach treated me like I was a starter. When I wasn't starting, then guess what? I had to be at meetings on time. I had to do it. It's not gonna be this constant thing. And the thing is, the players need to stop complaining about it because guess what? It's making the NBA look bad. I can't tell you the last time in the NFL or any other sport somebody won a championship. Somebody won a championship and was fired less than 2 years later. The only place where that happens is Philadelphia and Auburn. Those are the only two places where you can win a championship in football and get your tail fired. And that is an anomaly, those two places. In the NBA, it happens every other year. It's getting ridiculous at this point where, guess what? Everybody has these revolving door of coaches every other year. Championship coaches. You win it. The Denver Nuggets are one of the last team or one of the 4 teams that was integrated from the ABA. People don't realize the significance of them winning a championship. There was only 4 teams that came over from the ABA, and the Nuggets and the Spurs were 2 of them, not to mention Indiana. So for that team to be only the second team from the ABA that was integrated in the NBA when the merger occurred, do you realize the significance of that? Do you realize the history that comes along with that? And now 2 years later, he's fired? All because players are complaining. The GM doesn't like him. So what? Jerry Krause didn't like Phil Jackson and often antagonized him. But guess what? They found a way to make it work. As long as we win it, winning cures all. Winning cures all. And the thing was, even after the 98 championship, where they said this is going to be the last year, even that year, Jerry Reinsdorf offered Phil Jackson another contract to come back the next year because they won. Went over Jerry Krause's head. So for the owner to do something like this right before a playoff run where you have a chance in order to win another championship, even as a 5th seed, does the organization really know what they're doing?
Apparently not. And the reason why they decided to let him go because of the All-Star break, because they were under 500 since they came back from their All-Star break, and then they lose like 4 or 5 straight.
Yes. But as a coach, that's going to happen at times.
No, it's going to happen, champ.
Figure out.
But as the ownership,
oh my bad.
No, it's all good, champ. But from an organization standpoint, why now? We're this late into the season. We're about a week away from playoffs and play-in tournament, and now you make the decision to fire your head coach and the GM. Now, if it were early in the season and if things weren't going well and if they had a bad record, then perhaps we can understand the firing. But we're this late and Denver is already in playoff contention. Jokic might win the MVP for the 4th time in his career. If Denver didn't have any of these problems, if they were just winning games, champ, you wouldn't hear anything about Mike Malone being fired. And it seems to me with ownership, and you brought this up with Nico Harrison. Look, I still wouldn't let Nico Harrison off the hook, but it does kind of look bad on the part that that ownership is just sitting back, acting like nothing happened, and they're completely absolved. Now, look, that still doesn't let Luka off the hook because I still believe his conditioning has been a problem, but that doesn't mean you trade him when you don't even tell him. And all because, to your point, champ, the money. They didn't want to pay him that type of money, and along with other things.
These owners need to get it together because the ratings are already down. Now, NBA head coaching has become a joke. Back in the day, I'm not going to pretend head coaches did not get fired. We saw Paul Westhead get fired after he won a championship with the Los Angeles Lakers because, him and Magic did not see eye to eye. But they was able to get Pat Riley, and they was able to go on a run. And Pat Riley and Magic didn't always get along. Then you had Phil Jackson. He got fired by the organization because he disagreed with the fact that they were going to trade Shaq. Granted, he was hired back, but the thing is, he had no business getting fired in the first place. The problem is, these owners are, I don't know whether they're trying to be too hands-on or what, but they need to stop firing these coaches because the franchises are losing the stability that they once had. Once you win a championship, guess what? You deserve a hell of a lot of leeway when it comes to your team because now you're proven. You're proven. You know how to get out of tight spots when all else is just, it seems lost. You know how to break the streak when we're in a 5 to 10 to 6 game skid. You've been here before in the playoffs where we're not doing so good and we're going to the playoffs. That's the thing. That's what happens when you fire coaches. You lose not only that, but the experience, the championship experience. The players can only do so much. Coaching can take you very, very far. And we've seen it. So these NBA owners firing, like I said, once certain coaches win championships in other sports, it's a while before they're fired. A good while. And even after they're fired, they pick up a job automatically because other teams see what they did to bring the other team a championship. Mike Malone is a darn good coach. Won your first championship.
Winning percentage of 59.
Not to mention, he went to the semifinals last year. Been to the conference finals before the championship.
Multiple times.
So you fired that head coach because he couldn't get along with the general manager?
Apparently, because again, they lost some veteran players and GM wanted to go into a younger direction, and Mike Malone wanted to keep the veteran players. And I can understand from Mike Malone's standpoint because of the veteran players, particularly Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who provides you perimeter shooting. You would know, champ, because after all, he won a championship for your Los Angeles Lakers and gives you the perimeter defense. But the thing is the timing. We're this late into the season. We're about a week away from playoffs, and you pull this move. So essentially, what does it say? We talk about the NFL, no fun league. Seems like the NBA, no bull allowed. Hey. And when I mean by bull, you know what bull I'm referring to, because it seems like to me with coaches, no matter if we won a championship, and champ, to me, even though it is shocking with the timing, but we've seen a pattern with these coaches getting fired.
Coach Budenholzer, Coach Malone, Tyronn Lue, Frank Vogel.
Yeah.
It's getting disgusting at this point. Because how does it look, a championship coach getting fired?
Players apparently have too much. Players have too much leverage or empowerment, and the moment when they voice their frustrations, and when ownership or management is aware of it, it seems like to me they want to let them go. And if that's not the case, what is?
I can't really tell you at this point. It's getting to the point where if all it takes for players to be complaining about a coach for them to get fired, then something's got to change. It has to. I understand player empowerment, but you mean to tell me that these coaches got along with these players all the time? No. Michael Jordan didn't always get along with Phil Jackson. He couldn't stand Phil Jackson when he first got there. Kobe didn't like Phil Jackson his first go around. You're not going to always see eye to eye with everybody. It's becoming a problem. Okay, this player said it's complaining about it. So Let them figure it out. This guy just won a championship 2 years ago. He's already gone. And when you do that, you're setting your franchise behind. Because now that leaves your soldiers. Soldiers are nothing without generals, without senior leadership. So when you get rid of a leader like a coach, you leave your players in a state of flux because you don't know what the world is going on. They're adopting the one way of doing things, and now they have to adopt to another way of doing things. Game plans change. The way that you do in clutch situation changes. Who gets the ball last in certain plays change. That's
and
what
ownership.
happens.
And ownership thinks at this point they're going to put themselves in the best position possible to win a championship.
They're going to put themselves in the best position possible to get themselves out of there in the first round. Because you're not going to have a lot of continuity. You're not going to have a lot of chemistry. This new coach that's coming in, he's never been a head coach before. And guess what? You don't know what's going to happen with this. Like I said, coaching in the NBA has become a civic joke. And it's not just player empowerment. It's these owners not stepping in and doing right by the team. If you don't look, I'm going to just be real. Jerry Reinsdorf, although he was hands off, let the players and the coaches figure that out. Let the players and the coaches figure it out. He just won a championship, and Denver hasn't had bad teams over the course of their history. They've had good teams.
Oh, yeah. Franchise. I mean, you look at 08, 09. You look at early on in the 90s. Remember when they were the 8th seed and when they knocked off the number 1 seed champ in the playoffs with Mutombo, Restless Soul?
Yeah, him and the great Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, a.k.a. Chris Jackson.
Right.
I mean, like I said, and my voice sounds frustrated because it's like it's diluted. The ratings are already bad. And when you're firing coaches like this, it's just like, so where's the stability? So every time a player complains, we're gonna fire a coach. When he just won the championship 2 years ago, you had the best player in the league playing his best basketball, and now we're gonna fire him 4 days before the playoffs start. The NBA is going to play themselves right into the same position that they were in back in the 70s. And this time they can't blame a lot of other things because the foundation was already there.
Very unfortunate for Michael Malone and Calvin Booth. Michael Malone, hopefully he lands back on his feet, finds another job. But this late into the season, and they make this call, man. As Don King once said it, folks, only in America. Only in America.